Today we're going to be weathering a Class 50 in TT120. Why did it run around absolutely fine? Hello everybody peeps! Hi everyone. Welcome back to Emperor's Path. My name is SBJ. We're going to start off with that clip that you've just seen. So, a little caveat to this. I have been having problems with my Class 50s for the last 2 weeks. Both of them have had problems that are both different to each other. I have also weathered hundreds and hundreds of locomotives for myself and for other people, and I have never had this be a problem. So, I need to put the caveat in here that whenever I weather a loco for myself or anyone else, I always clean the wheels afterwards, and I always try and make them as clean and as best running as they possibly can be. And to my knowledge, at the point of this video, I have never had anyone tell me that their loco stops working. So that's why it's really important for me to say that my Class 50s were struggling before this, and I nearly launched both of them out of the window this week. I'm saying that because I have one that I didn't touch with any weathering and it was still having problems, and then I've done the one that I have weathered and it had problems afterwards. I have tried to work out what's going on with it, but unfortunately, I can't seem to sort a problem. So I'm boxing up both of my Class 50s and I'm sending them off to TMC. They're going to take a look at them and see if there is a particular problem on them, whether it's particular solder joints or something like that. I have tried, in the Class 50 that we weathered in this video, I have tried 2 different decoders, one HM7000 and one of the, I believe they're the Bachmann Next 18 ABC braking chips, and both of them struggled. I have tried my HST and my Class 08 on the layout. They both work absolutely fine. It's only on the 2 Class 50s, and it's only been the last couple of weeks that they've started having these problems. I have taken the chips out of them and put them into DC mode. One of them didn't work at all, and the one that we weathered, when it's in DC, works absolutely fine. So I have no idea what the problem is. So I'm sending them away to TMC. I wanted to put the caveat of this right at the beginning of the video so that you're aware that this isn't because of the weathering this happened. So later in the video, I'm going to promise you a running session video. I tried my hardest and I sat for hours cleaning the wheels and trying to get this running just so that I could have it running around the layout and just showing off the nice weathering that we've done in this video. So I'm kind of sad that we did a really nice weathering job on this, and the Loco and the Reiko Coach's stationery looks really nice, if I do say so myself. But just for whatever reason, it just didn't want to play ball. And this is different things. It sporadically sort of jumps and judders around on the layout. It sometimes just randomly stops in completely different places. There's no rhyme or reason as to where. As I say, I have tried it on all 4 lines and it has the same problem, yet when I put the HST and the Class 08 on those same lines, flawless. They go round absolutely no problem. Which, considering the 08 has a shorter wheelbase and doesn't have as many pickups, I'm going to say that that's a problem with the locos. So that's something we're going to get sorted out. Right, now I'm going to take a breather and film the next part. Okay, sorry about that. Wanted to put it right at the beginning so that you're aware of everything before the video comes to an end. And a very sudden end, knowing how I filmed it. But I also wanted to be really honest and say that I've had problems with this loco, because I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and be like, oh, I forgot to film a running session. No, there's problems, and I have tried to fix them. However, today we're going to be sitting down and I'm going to show you how I weather locomotives. And as a little bonus, because of how it worked out when I was sat on my airbrush, I actually weathered the whole rake of coaches to go with the loco. So hopefully that's a little bonus for you in this. Now, those of you who don't know, I do have other weathering videos, which is going to be in a little box that pops up here. If you want to see more weathering videos, more in-depth ones, I know I've got the Hornby TTA tankers coming soon. And whilst I really want to do a video on them as soon as they arrive, I feel that everyone's going to be showing off the TTA tankers. So maybe it's a better idea if I show how to weather TTA tankers. So everyone has different ways that they choose to weather. Some people use pigments, weathering powders. Some people use acrylics. Some people use enamels. My favourite method of weathering, it's more time consuming, but I believe the effects of it are better, is oil paints. So I use Winsor & Newton Artist oil paints to do my weathering. Raw umber, burnt umber, they're the sort of colours that I really like to use. If you were going to go out and buy one, that's the one to use. As I say, I've got videos on how I do it in a more in-depth look, but if you want to see me weather this Class 50 Loco, this is how I'm doing it. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how to weather it. If you want to see more in-depth videos, go and have a look at those. But oil paints with a little bit of Artist White Spirit. Artist White Spirit is the important part. If you pick just normal White Spirit and you're in a confined space, you'll go loopy within the first 10 minutes. Artist White Spirit doesn't have the same aromas, vapours, the same smell that normal White Spirit does, and you can work with it in a much longer length of time. So with that, I'm going to weather the 50 and I'll see you guys at the end. Okay, so here we are. We are going to be weathering this Class 50. I've renumbered it into Arc Royal. Arc Royal is one of my favourite 50s in large logo, so I thought that would be a really good thing to do. It also means that you don't end up having exactly the same Class 50 as other people, which is fine, but do you know what? Having a different numbered loco is also quite nice for me. One thing about these Class 50s that is really, really good is the fact that you've got a really bright grey roof, the blues, the yellows. There's a lot of different colours on there. That means that when you start weathering it, they pop in different ways. So a brown or an orange will look different on the blue to the white of the roof and the yellow. So you have some extra different details. Whereas if you have a loco that is very much the same colour, you sort of struggle a little bit. So what I've done is I've got a little bit of a mix here using this Winsor & Newton burnt umber, and I've put a little bit of White Spirit in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix it up. What you want is, for your first sort of couple of passes, you want to have a slightly, ever so slightly loose mix, is that the right term? And the reason for that is because you want it to get in all of the nooks and crannies that are up here. So this is where having that little bit of additional White Spirit that's in there does help. And in fact, I think I still need a little bit more in there. That's a little bit too... actually, no, I think that's good. So we're just going to cover this. This is the part that usually tends to make people worry a little bit. Everyone sort of sees you cover the loco in this brown mess and then panic. And that's good, because it means that people aren't expecting what you're about to do. I really like using oil paints when I'm weathering, simply because the work time that you have with oil paints versus acrylics and enamels is so long. You could effectively, in essence, weather this loco and do it over 24 hours if you really wanted to. The drying time that you have for your oil paints is about 24 hours-ish. So you've got a little bit of a work time for it on there. And the fact that I'm just popping all this on the roof. Thing is it seems silly because you're going to work away at this eventually. But by covering it like this, you're making sure that it is going in all of those nooks and crannies that are on the roof there. As I say, because it's such a stark contrast of the white grey, it does make all the difference. So I'm going to cover this loco and then we're going to have a look at working away at it. Okay, so hopefully you saw in the previous clip, the main thing is covering it in all of the oil paints, and especially ensuring that you're getting all of the oil paints in all the nooks and crannies. This is especially effective on things like an 08 shunter, where there's a lot of detail in them. But as you can see on the roof on this Class 50, there's a lot of detail there too. Then you use a mixture of brushes with White Spirit on there or cotton buds, and you effectively decide to work your way down. So you effectively start in the middle and you work your way down before effectively moving on to the sides and then eventually the ends. I find the ends are the hardest part to do. I used to find them really easy, but I don't know if something's changed or the way I'm doing it. I'm finding the ends harder and harder to do, especially in TT. Trying to get in between all of the cables and stuff like that is a lot harder than I used to find it, definitely when it comes to 00. But hopefully, I think you can agree, we've managed to get some grime on there, and hopefully it'll look nice and dirty when it comes to actually putting it behind some coaches. when I airbrush on here, that sort of weird shine that you're getting from the decal, as you can see, it doesn't necessarily always look like it's there. We'll airbrush on there and that will take away a lot of that sort of shiny surface on there, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'm now going to let this cure. The white spirits need a chance to cure and evaporate, so I don't need to necessarily do anything with that on here. And then the next step is we're just going to airbrush to sort of tie the grime on the bottom. Okay, so our oil paints are done. They are curing. Usually I would like to leave this a few days, but because I want to get this video out, I'm going to do the airbrushing now. There's no real problem with doing the airbrushing now. The only difference is that I will struggle to pick this loco up because the oil paints haven't fully dried or cured. So if you're doing this at home, I would recommend leaving it for a couple of days for the oil paints to dry, cure, white spirits to evaporate and stuff like that. But because we're just going to be working on the bottom part of the body, I've put a battery and a little clip here to try and make it so that I can just get those little bits. And anyone who's seen me work at a show will see that I usually pick things up by the buffers. So by picking up by the buffers, I'm trying to reduce what bits I'm picking up. So during this next bit, I am going to be using a mixture of Vallejo Game Color Black. Basically, when you're working on a loco, a very simple color scheme to use is black, a little bit of black brown, and a little bit of black. They are the simple beginner's versions of this that I would recommend. You can then start adding in spot colors like some rust colors or maybe some whites from some lime scale or things like that. They are different colors that you can use whilst you're working on locos. For me, my general go-to is I will usually do this Vallejo chocolate, which is, I'd say it's probably one of the best dropper bottle versions of Sleeper Grime or something close to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attack the bottom bits here, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'll do a little bit of weathering on the roof, but I'll also do the ends as well. So I'm going to crack on with this. You're going to see a time lapse, and hopefully we'll see a nice brown / black loco by the end of it. So I've done the brown on here, and I've got quite a lot of it left in my cup on my airbrush. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this Class 50 off, and I'm just going to quickly do and show you how I really quickly weather a rake of coaches in rolling stock terms. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. So we're going to very quickly just be using the same brown. When it's my own stock or when I'm trying to do something sort of quickly, I try my hardest to not worry about putting too many colours on here. The idea is they're effectively trying to take off that shine that you get with the factory finish. We're going to be mostly attacking the bottom bit here with a little bit of upspray that sort of affects the sides. You do get it where all these coaches go through a coach wash, so the sides are quite clean, but that doesn't mean that on a London Waterloo to Exeter journey they're not going to get absolutely covered in filth. So what I'm going to do is attack the bottoms, go for the end pieces. They're going to be disgusting as well because all of the dirt just sort of goes up in between them and they don't get touched by the cleaners. And then I'm just going to sort of do a swiping motion across the top just to give it a little bit of a dirty looking roof. This is really important because with model railways, one thing that we do more than anything is we tend to be sat staring at the roofs of our locomotives more than anything else that we have. So having some sort of differential colour on the roofs is going to be really, really important. And having that sort of side swipe effect means that as it's going round, you're not necessarily going to see it all the time, but you're going to see little bits of it as the locos are going round. So hopefully we see that when it comes to the end. Okay, so we're back with the 50. The airbrush has matted this down really nicely. If you're not aware, I really like dirty, grimy, filthy rolling stock on my layout, hence why I do weathering. Now, this doesn't mean that my weathering is always this aggressive, but it's what I like and it's how I like my rolling stock to look. I've seen plenty of pictures of Class 50s going in and out of Portsmouth with a fairly clean rake behind them, but the actual loco's disgusting, and this is no exception. But what we're going to do now is we're going to use the Vallejo Black game colour, and we're just going to attack really little bits of the vents. Now, the reason this is important is if you just did black on here, you'd end up with a sort of flat colour. But because we've done a slightly bigger area in the brown, when you put the black on, it's going to add loads of depth to it. So we're only going to be putting really tiny bits of black on these sort of areas, but it will just add that sort of pop and depth onto there that you wouldn't get if you just went straight on there. And the same thing, I'm going to be working on these vents here as well. And it just sort of accentuates all those little bits. I don't need to do any particular blacks on the ends because they're already quite grimy, but I don't want to overdo it. So let's start working on the black. Well, here we are. Loco's done. Disgustingly grubby. I'm going to give you some close-up shots and some running shots of it. So here it is. Here's the Class 50, now Arc Royal. What I will be doing just before I put it onto the track is I'm going to be putting its nameplate on. I have got a nameplate already sorted. As I said, I love having grubby, disgusting Class 50s. I love the streaking that you can get on them, and I really think that large logo BR Blue really lends itself to something that looks really worn out and disgusting, which is perfect for me. Luckily, because of loading up the airbrush too much, we've also managed to get the rake of coaches behind this one sorted. So I'm going to get this down onto the track, probably have to clean the wheels first a little bit, get that nameplate on, and we're going to show you some running shots of this running around. So there we are, a sudden stop with no actual running session. I'm really sorry for that. I really think that this Class 50 does look good. You have to be on the grubbier side like I am with how you weather your rolling stock if you want like this. You basically add more white spirit and take away, and you work away a little bit more to get rid of all of the streaks. One thing that the white spirit does is it leaves a really nice streak that isn't necessarily like absolutely filthy. If you were to just sort of almost clean it away fully, it adds like an almost subtle fading to the paintwork without actually ruining your paint, and it's really good. So in terms of layout update, I'm at a point where I can't show you anything because I haven't really got all of the progress. You can see down here, if you've followed me on Instagram, I've got a couple of buildings that I've been working on. I've purchased buildings from various different manufacturers who do buildings in TT. The big problem I've got is that I am effectively modelling an entire area with buildings, and I want it to look right. So I'm trying to populate as much as I can whilst also not bankrupting myself. So there will be a video coming out further down the line, me showing off the buildings and the skyline. The thing that I'm effectively... I got some really good advice in the last video where I asked where I should work on, and a lot of people said, although they want to see me work on the station, they said the best idea would be to work on this back section. If I can get all of the work done on that back section, I can then put all of the scenery in front of it, and then it's done, and then I don't have to stretch over any other scenery later down the line, so effectively don't ruin the station. I was a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to work on that at first, but then I took the advice that people were giving me, and I thought that's actually a really good piece of advice. So anyone who did say that in the last video, thank you very much, because you have spurred me on. I am in talks with Joseph from That Model Railway Guide to see if he can make me some more of the retaining walls in sort of a bigger bulk form, and then I can add on the additional details. It will make my life a little bit easier when I'm working on that. But one thing I did have is, because Joseph sent me the pair, see if I can see them. I think that you can see them down here. I can't see because the light's really bright, but just about around here is where the retaining walls are, and they look really nice when they're in situ, and then having a couple of buildings in front of them as well. I've ordered quite a lot of buildings from Model UX or Modelux. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but they've just started doing TT buildings, and one of these, it's a really nice kit. So I've ordered more buildings from them to try. I've definitely ordered at least one of these. I will probably order another 2 or 3. It's such a good size building that it's big enough that it hides the locos behind it, so you can sort of see them pop in and out, which is what I wanted from this layout. I do also need to build some sort of more high-rise flat building, so I have purchased a couple of other bits from there. So yeah, I'm very excited. There's loads of things coming up. I wanted to show you the weathering because I wanted to get my stock weathered. We've obviously had a slight problem with it, but do you know what? It's done. The 50s are going to be sent away and hopefully TMC can fix them for me and figure out what the heck is going on. And yeah, hopefully we'll come up with something because I love watching the 50s go around. And as much as I love my HST and my 08, for this layout to feel like it's working, I need more locos. I'm filming this in the point where other people have had their TTAs, and I think mine are probably turning up a couple of days later and not close enough for me to film it for next week's video. So we'll deal with that later down the line. So if you want to see me weather TTAs and make them look absolutely disgusting, don't worry about the fact that I could possibly break the loco, because simply you can't really break rolling stock when you're doing it. That's the other thing. If you're a TT modeler and you haven't, my friend Tom from Buggleskelly Station has just released his Buggleskelly station wagons. Now this has been weathered, or started to be weathered, by myself. I'm making it as suitably grubby and grimy as I possibly can. These are beautiful. I am a diesel electric modeler. I'm not really a big steam person, but I'm looking at Terriers, let's be really honest. The Terriers coming out is a very exciting prospect. But Tom has plenty of these Buggleskelly Station TT120 wagons available. If you're a fan of Tom but you don't model TT120, buy this simply because it's a beautiful wagon and he's done a really, really good job on it. Alternatively, if you are a TT120 modeler and you need wagons, this is a perfect wagon. The free roll on this, I gave it a little roll down my straight incline and it just went. So if you haven't already, I will put a link in the description below for you to go and purchase your bits from Tom from Buggleskelly Station. Peachy always complains that I don't mention him in a video. Actually, here we go. Peachy TC120, who helped me design this layout. There you go, Peachy. There is one thing I forgot to mention. Somehow, I still am flummoxed by the idea of this. Somehow I have been nominated for the Hornby Magazine Awards YouTube Layout Builder? I think that's the phrase, or YouTube Layout? I'm not entirely sure, but somehow I've been nominated for it. So if you are a TT120 modeler and you want to keep seeing stuff like this and you want to inflate my ego, please go over to the Hornby Magazine Awards voting for this year. It closes on the 22nd of September, so we're running late on this. But if you haven't already, please go over and vote. And not just necessarily, you don't need to vote directly for myself, but vote for who you enjoy watching. There are some absolutely fantastic people in the categories, and there's some absolutely fantastic friends of mine who are in there as well, and I'd be absolutely ecstatic to see them win. So yeah, I'm going to put a link in the description below for that. If you want to vote for me, great. If you don't want to vote for me and you want to vote for someone else, that's absolutely fine as well. But use your vote. That's the main thing. If voting is key in anything. If you don't vote, you don't make a difference. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming. It's now in the season where it's cooler up here, so I'm slowly working on little bits. I have also purchased lots of plasticard foam board to start blocking off the non-scenic sections of the layout. I want there to be the definitive breaks so people understand where the scenery stops and things like that. I need to sort the loft out. It's the thing of you start working on big sections and trying to sort stuff out and you get ready for shows and all this sort of stuff. And then you end up just making a bigger mess than you did before. So that's coming up in the future. If you don't already, you can go and listen to me on a weekly basis on the Model Rail Replacement podcast with my friend James from the Western Signalman. At the point of this video coming out, this week we'll have had an episode where we talked to Cav and Alex from Cavalex. See what they did there? And it was such a nice chat. And if you're here for TT and you're worried that because we're talking to a double O gauge manufacturer, it's not going to be your jam. If you want to see what it's like talking to a manufacturer who is a passionate modeler outside of being a manufacturer as well, you're in for a treat. And I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable chat. So if you want to go and have a listen, this week's episode is with Cavalex. Yeah, go give that a listen. On the week that this comes out, I will be at Rapido Rail-X on the Friday. Those of you who don't know, Rapido Rail-X is done on Friday, Saturday rather than Saturday, Sunday. I'm on call standby on the Saturday, so I won't be able to attend. However, I am going to be there helping out my friend Tom Marshall from Buggleskelly Station, which if you've watched this video, you'll have seen a little tidbit in advance. So come and say hi, come and say hello to Buggleskelly Station, come and say hi to me. We'll be at Rapido Rail X on the Buggleskelly Station stand. YouTube's now going to suggest a video that it thinks you might like. I've been SBJ. Thanks for watching Emperor's Path. Bye!